After Brexit, the call for a second independence referendum is likely to become louder in Scotland. Brexit and the corona crisis give supporters of Scottish independence more hope than ever for the separation from Great Britain. The nationalist movement is closer than ever to the realization of its project, said politics professor John Curtis from Strathclyde University in Glasgow. The main driver is Brexit. In the 2016 referendum, a clear majority of Scots voted against leaving the EU. Now only independence can create the possibility of EU membership, which is desired by the overwhelming majority of Scots, emphasizes Fabian Zuleeg, head of the European Policy Centre in Brussels. Kirsty Hughes, director of the Scottish Council on European Relations think tank in Edinburgh, points out that proponents have demographics on their side. Among people under 35, 70 or 80% are for independence and for the EU, she says. This approval is also driven by crisis management in the corona pandemic. The Scottish First Minister Nicola Sturgeon is classified as much more competent than the British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, said Curtis. The Prime Minister is known to not care too much about the details. Sturgeon, on the other hand, sounds like the top medical officer, like a top scientist, said the expert. There is no doubt that Boris Johnson has involuntarily become the best recruiter for the national movement in Scotland, said Curtis. In a referendum in 2014, a slim majority had spoken out against independence. Johnson rejects a new referendum and stresses that the question has been clarified for this generation, but proponents point out that the conditions have changed after leaving the EU. On May 6th, Scotland is to elect a new parliament. The ruling Scottish National Party, the SNP of First Minister Sturgeon, is heading towards a record majority according to a survey. She could currently expect 71 out of 129 seats in the Scottish Assembly. Former SNP Vice President Angus Robertson announced that the goal was a new referendum within the next legislative period. He warned Johnson about preventing the vote. Its attitude is anti-democratic, said Robertson. The Scottish economy has recently benefited from the free movement of people in the EU. This is the largest single market in the world and we want to be part of it, said Robertson, who was the SNP group leader in the British Parliament for years and now heads a pro-independence think tank. Experts definitely see chances that an independent Scotland, with its approximately 5.5 million inhabitants, can survive economically, point to oil from the North Sea and rich fish stocks as well as tourism. The border with England is certainly a major disadvantage, said Hughes. On the other hand, freedom of movement applies again and one could attract more private investment. Referendum, independence, EU accession, First Minister Sturgeon repeatedly announces this process. And a re-entry into the EU is quite conceivable, said expert Zuleeg in Brussels. At the 2014 independence referendum, the EU made its rejection quite clear. And even now there are members like Spain who are critical of their own country's independence efforts, but we come to that a little bit later. But the basic tenor has changed also because Great Britain has destroyed a lot of confidence with its Brexit policy, said Zuleeg. And just to make some points clear that always pop up in the comments again and again. Spain will not veto an independent Scotland joining the EU. They made that clear already. And one voice, for example, was the Spanish Foreign Secretary some time ago. Now he's a commissioner of the EU. Secondly, the myth of the once-in-a-lifetime referendum. Whenever the circumstances change, and Brexit was that change in this case, a referendum can be repeated. They will have to sort out the legal circumstances here, but they must be allowed to have another referendum under changed circumstances. For example, most of you know that I am a local politician here, and our local referendums can be held every 2 years if the people want that. If they get enough people to sign that, they can have it every 2 years. That's democracy. So, especially the Brexiteers who always talk about the EU is undemocratic and respect our democratic vote, yeah, give the Scottish the same right for democracy. So the myth and headline spreading that was custom around Brexit continues of the side of the enemies of a second Scottish referendum still. And they will continue to do so, I know. But one thing is clear, independence for the northern part of the country would have serious consequences. The United Kingdom will break up, said constitutional lawyer Robert Hassell from University College London to the DPA. There are already strong signals of increasing support for a referendum in Northern Ireland on reunification with Ireland. And calls for independence have also been more popular in Wales, although on a lower level at the moment, but time will tell. Johnson's promise of global Britain, strong and free because of Brexit, would and will prove false, Hassell said. And if you want to stay informed on this, please subscribe to my channel and my other channels. I'll see you in my next video. Auf Wiedersehen.